Are your parents divorced?
Are you divorced? You're not alone.
But have you ever wondered why over half of all marriages fail? We think we know why it happens. Barry and Tammy Smith here, married 25 years.
Parents of 18 years and pastors and coaches for over 25 years.
I definitely had the concept of marriage all messed up for quite a few years. If divorce had been an option those first couple years, we'd definitely have taken it.
But I don't think our parents or the leaders of the church that you were a youth pastor would have liked that too
I don't think the elders would be digging that. Regardless, it just wasn't an option for us. Divorce wasn't in the cards.
The key to a successful marriage is a solid foundation from the beginning.
And then building on that, it's just so important.
If we can't get a solid foundation up front, our marriages are destined to follow the footsteps of those who have gone before us.
And we don't want that to happen for you at all. But we really believe we've got the answer. And it's not like a magic pill of some type or some mystic solution for you. It's just a solid and biblical advice.
It's even more than advice. It's the way God intended marriage to function. After all, this whole thing was His idea.
That's true. In the previous videos, we talked about every meaningful relationship having two boxes. There's the dreams, desires, and wishes box on one side,
and the expectations box. And we learned that the minute we move something from the dream box into the expectation box, the dynamic in the relationship instantly changes.
And once we expect something, well, there's no room for unconditional love. There's no appreciation. There's no intimacy. Because our spouse does something that you expect them to do, well, if that's the case, you just expect it.
They're simply supposed to do whatever it is they did.
Now, we realize that there are some expectations in marriage that are good, like fidelity and honesty. But most every young person getting married has a laundry list of dreams, desires, and wishes that they have going on in their head going into the marriage.
And that's all fine, but when we move them into the expectation box, disaster is waiting.
Do you know of any couples who have their expectation box full?
If so, post in the comments below what the expectation was. Don't mention any names, but just let us know in the comments below what expectations you've seen.
Now, we've talked about a couple of games that people play to cope and survive their marriage.
Yes, the control and compromise games, and neither one of those are healthy options.
That's true. God set this whole marriage idea up in the first place, and He did it in the first book of the Bible, Genesis. And God said that a man is to leave his mom and his dad and be united to his wife, and the two are to become one flesh.
Yep, that's talking about sex.
Baby,
two people are no longer two people,
about you and
they're
me.
one.
That's true. And that is, for all practical purposes, marriage, two becoming one. Sexual intercourse. Now, we're not naive enough to think that every person who has sex with someone else is married to them.
That's not the way it works today, and that would be silly.
Yeah, it would be totally silly. And yet, that's how God designed it. Remember, this whole thing was His idea. That's why our best practices is to never have sex with anyone that's not your spouse.
Because the bond, well, it's so incredible. And that brings us to the point of this video.
A marriage is meant to be a covenant, a bond, a commitment, a pledge, an undying loyalty. It's meant to stick and be permanent, like this perpetual and spiritual promise.
Marriage is a solemn and binding relationship between two people, but it's not like a contract. You can always get out of a contract, and this is where things get kind of weird and confusing.
It's true. A contract is where one party agrees to do one thing and another party agrees to do another, and they each have their share to fulfill. But you can always break a contract.
You can buy a car and the dealership provides the car and the purchaser provides the money. You can pay for a house, but you'll pay the mortgage in exchange for your house.
Now, you can always get out of a contract by simply stop paying the mortgage. If anyone breaks their promise in a contract, there are clauses to get the other person out of the contract.
But a marriage is a covenant where each side provides 100%.
In marriage, each party agrees to go all in. Each spouse commits to unconditional love.
Unconditional. In a covenant, it's a never-ending agreement that says, I will no matter what.
It's definitely not a 50-50 relationship. At least that's not the way God meant it to be. In a covenant, you say, I will even if you won't.
The verb form for covenant would be like, I covenant to love you forever. That puts it all on you. You would do this no matter what.
But that's the gist. Marriage is saying that you trust the other person to follow Christ so closely that they'll always do right by you.
Because without God, each person would operate with their own set of rules.
Their own right or wrong, their own personal well-being. It all comes up to them.
But because we align with God, we all leverage marriage the way God intended it.
Two people becoming one flesh in the act of marriage, and that's where people become one. And wherever people become one, the Bible says, let no man separate.
That's a covenant marriage. Definitely not a contract marriage.
And we realize that there are abusive situations that need to end for sure.
And if that's you, we are so sorry that you had to go through this. It's not right.
And it's not the way that God intended it to be for you. And once again, God created us and He created sex and marriage, and our job is to follow Him.
In the next video, we're going to talk about the first two things to go in the marriage where the expectation box is full.
And in the video after that, we're going to show you how to see if you've moved your dreams, desires, and wishes into the expectations box.
Until then, we hope you like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel.
It helps us get the word out there. And don't forget to post the expectations that you've seen below. Be sure to do that right now.
With no names.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and hit that thumbs up and share this thing.
Because no doubt there's someone you know that probably needs to hear it.
And we'll see you in the next video. The verb form of covenant would be like, I covenant to love you forever. That puts it all on
Let's
you.
try that again.
Why?
You're talking like a robot.
I am not.